Do we have a short track solution? Goodyear will bring 2 different tires to the All-Star race at North Wilkesboro, and this year's NASCAR Hall of Fame nominees have been revealed. Let the debate begin. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove midweek edition, and we've got a lot of ground to cover. Let's dive right in. Last night, the format for this year's NASCAR Cup Series All-Star race at North Wilkesboro Speedway was unveiled. First off, here are the drivers currently locked into the main event. It includes all 2023 and 2024 Cup Series race winners, also includes past All-Star race winners and past Cup Series champions who still race full-time. Allmendinger, Bell, Blaney, Buescher, Busch, Byron, Chastain, Elliott, Hamlin, Keselowski, Larson, Logano, McDowell, Reddick, Stenhouse, Suarez, Truex, and Shane Van Gisbergen. That's right, he's a race winner. We'll see if Colleague/Trackhouse chooses to field a car for him, but hey, that could be cool. 3 spots are still up for grabs. The rest of the field will have to race their way in through the All-Star Open, or they'll have to win the fan vote. But don't look now, Justin Haley's campaign is off to a roaring early start.
We need someone that will take on the NASCAR establishment.
Now let's talk schedule and format. Friday night will feature qualifying and the pit crew challenge all at once. Drivers will run 1 lap at speed, they'll pit their second time by for 4 tires, then they'll come back out and race to the checkered. The fastest overall time will determine the All-Star race pole sitter. The fastest pit stop, minus any potential time penalties for loose lug nuts or whatever, will be the pit crew challenge winner and will get the first selection of pit stalls on pit road for the All-Star race. Qualifying will also set the lineups for the 2 heat races on Saturday night. 2 60-lap heat races. There'll be a caution at lap 30 where teams will have to make a 4-tire pit stop. These 2 heats will establish the inside and outside row for Sunday night's All-Star main event. Now let's get to Sunday, beginning with the All-Star Open set to go green at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on FS1. It's a 100-lap race with a caution at lap 50 where teams must pit for 4 tires. The top 2 finishers will advance to the All-Star race. That 3rd spot, again, will go to the fan vote winner. At 8 p.m. Eastern Time on FS1 Sunday night, the All-Star race begins. 200 laps, there's a caution on lap 100 where teams must pit to make a 4-tire pit stop, and then another caution on lap 150 where pitting is optional. Now this is where things get interesting. For the All-Star race main event, teams will have 2 sets of prime slick tires and 2 sets of optional slick tires. Teams will also have 3 sets of prime and 2 sets of optionals for practice, qualifying, and the heat races. But let's talk about these tires for a moment. Could they save short track racing? I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me explain the differences. It's quite simple. The prime tires will feature traditional yellow Goodyear lettering on the side. They are normal slick tires that were tested at North Wilkesboro Speedway last month, while the option tires will have red lettering. These are also slick tires, but they are made from the same rubber that the wet weather tires are made of. These tires are designed to provide more grip on the short run, but wear out faster over time. Then, of course, there are actual wet weather tires available just in case it rains. We've seen something like this before. Remember 2017, the All-Star race at Charlotte Motor Speedway? There were prime tires, there were option tires that were softer, more grip, wear out quicker. We saw in that race at least a subtle difference between the 2 sets of tires, but we have to remember so much is different today. It's a completely different race car. It's not a 1.5 miles, it's a short track, a freshly repaved short track. So who knows how effective these new option tires will actually be. It's very encouraging though to see a new, radically different tire get put into action so quickly. Fans, drivers, everyone has criticized the way the next-gen car races at short tracks, with, I'd say, Martinsville earlier this month being the final straw for many. NASCAR designed this next-gen car, and clearly it has flaws. They've turned to Goodyear now, hoping they can mask some of those flaws. This week, NASCAR's John Probst said, quote, "It's always difficult to ask your tire partner to build a tire like this because they build great tires, and we're asking them to actually build a tire that's going to wear out and maybe fail ultimately if the teams drive it too hard for too long. So we're actually trying to thread the needle of making entertaining racing without the tire becoming the overwhelming story from a failure perspective. Goodyear as a company is not going to want to be seen with their tires failing, even though that's what we're asking for. So we've been asking them to do things that probably make them a little uncomfortable to do, but they have been phenomenal to work with. Again, we saw a softer option tire in the 2017 All-Star race. So much has changed since then. Will this new option tire save short track racing? No, probably not. But we've run out of aero changes at this point. NASCAR seems unwilling to mess with the horsepower, mess with the gearing. Too expensive, too difficult maybe in the short term at least. That's what they say. Tires are the next best place to focus. In my opinion, any noticeable improvement at North Wilkesboro will be worth celebrating. But we also have to remember, North Wilkesboro is a freshly repaved short track. It will not drive anything like it did 1 year ago. There's a lot of unknown when it comes to North Wilkesboro specifically. I hope this new option tire shakes things up, produces some great racing next month. But more importantly, I hope this new tire gives Goodyear the confidence to bring it to a Richmond or maybe a Martinsville, New Hampshire. Continue to push. This is a great start, and honestly, it's coming sooner than I expected. I'm happy to see Goodyear take a risk. There seems to be an actual sense of urgency. Will this tire fix short track racing overnight? No, probably not, but I hope it gives Goodyear the confidence to keep pushing. The All-Star race format this year is fine, but the most interesting part of this event now is this new option tire. I am cautiously optimistic. Now let's follow up on the big story from yesterday. Erik Jones unfortunately will miss Dover this weekend after suffering a compression fracture in his back at Talladega. Corey Heim will make his NASCAR Cup Series debut this weekend, and now we know he'll be driving an epic Richard Petty throwback scheme to his 200th win. Beautiful looking car. Man, talk about pressure. Corey Heim is 21, making his NASCAR Cup Series debut at a difficult track, Dover, radically different next-gen car. He's in a substitution role, not much practice, not much qualifying, and now he's representing the king. Goodness me. Again, good luck to Corey Heim this weekend. I also want to mention that NASCAR has already granted Erik Jones a playoff waiver for when he's hopefully able to return to the seat. Like we talked about yesterday, Jones is taking things week to week. Hopefully we see him back behind the wheel of the 43 sooner rather than later. Hopefully he's able to get back at least close to 100%. Back injuries are no joke whatsoever. One final story. Earlier today, the NASCAR Hall of Fame revealed this year's nominees for the class of 2025. Greg Biffle is on the modern era ballot along with Neil Bonnet, Tim Brewer, Jeff Burton, Randy Dorton, Carl Edwards, Harry Gant, Harry Hyde, Ricky Rudd, and Jack Sprague. On the Pioneer era ballot, Ray Hendrick is now on the list along with Banjo Matthews, Ralph Moody, Larry Phillips, and Bob Wellborn. 2 names will make it in off the modern era ballot. 1 will get voted in off the Pioneer. Last year, of course, it was Jimmy and Chad getting overwhelming support on the modern era ballot. This year, it is wide open. We'll get to that in a moment. Let's focus on the Pioneer era ballot first. Banjo Matthews was an expert car builder. I read a stat that his cars won every single race of the 1978 season. Ralph Moody, part of Holman Moody Racing, won championships, won dozens of races. Larry Phillips won 5 NASCAR Weekly Series championships. He was named one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers this past year. And then, of course, Ray Hendrick, Bob Wellborn. This is tough, and it's tough for me to talk about because I'm 26 years old. I didn't see any of these guys race, obviously. There are obviously far more qualified people out there who could talk about each of these figures and their contributions to racing. I've read textbooks, watched old highlights and clips. I feel like the guys who built race cars like Ralph Moody, like Banjo Matthews, had a really large impact on the sport overall, but you can't ignore someone like Larry Phillips who won so many races. I think I looked up Yeah, he won more than 70% of the NASCAR sanctioned events he entered. Like, that's ridiculous. I'd probably pick Banjo Matthews, but you could make a strong argument for any one of these. And again, I'm not the most qualified person by any means to talk about these historical greats. Leave a comment down below. Who would get your vote off the Pioneer era ballot? I am at least a little more qualified to talk about the modern era. I am going to say something that might be controversial. None of these names are clear Hall of Famers, in my opinion. With all due respect, remember when they used to vote in 5 names every single year? Yeah, that's because we had to play catch up. You had to get the Earnhardts, the Frances, the Pettys in. I think it's safe to say we've caught up at this point. Now, 2 go in off the modern era. I think that's about right, but as a result, you're going to have some years like this one where, I don't know, kind of everyone's on that edge, like, I guess it's his turn to get in. It's not like last year where you had Jimmy, you had Chad, you had 2 clear first ballot Hall of Famers. This year, this list, it is wide freaking open. None of the drivers on this modern era ballot ever won a NASCAR Cup Series championship. Now, some of the crew chiefs did. Tim Brewer did. Harry Hyde did. Randy Dorton was a part of Hendrick Motorsports for many championship seasons. But you look at the drivers. Neil Bonnet, Alabama gang, absolute legend. Harry Gant, handsome Harry, didn't start racing full-time in Cup, I don't think, until he was 39 years old. Still won, 18 races? Second place points finish one year, also won like 20 Xfinity races. Carl Edwards is the winningest Cup Series driver on this list with 26 victories. Greg Biffle is on the list this year. He's got a Truck and Xfinity Series title. He finished second in Cup points in 2005, came that close to becoming the first driver ever to win a championship in all 3 series, a feat that to this day no one has accomplished. Jeff Burton deserves some love, man. He's a 21-time Cup Series winner, and he's had an impact on the sport since his driving career. He's like the head of the Drivers Advisory Council. He's on NBC. Jack Sprague is on the ballot this year. He's a 3-time Truck Series champion. Show him some respect. Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus got in last year, but Harry Gant and Ricky Rudd finished 3rd and 4th. Ricky Rudd, Iron Man, made 788 consecutive Cup Series starts. He won, I think it was 23 Cup Series races. Tim Brewer deserves a ton of credit. Harry Hyde, iconic. Crew chiefs never get the love they seem to deserve. Like, even Chad Knaus last year only got 80% of the vote. Like, what? I reserve the right to change my picks a little later on. This is just first impression. It's so hard to choose, man. I only can pick 2. And again, I'll be honest, I don't think any of these guys are clear-cut, no-brainer Hall of Famers. That may sound harsh, but I think it's fair. I think Carl Edwards should get in eventually. I think I've said that for a couple of years now. Maybe this is the year, but I don't know. Maybe he has to wait one more. Ricky Rudd deserves a ton of credit. Again, I think Jeff Burton is kind of slept on. Harry Gant and Neil Bonnet, see, to me, those are icons. Do they actually have Hall of Fame worthy resumes? Borderline. I'm gonna make people angry. I don't know who to choose. I'll go Ricky Rudd. He's been on the ballot for a long time. He came up just short last year. Get Ricky Rudd in the Hall of Fame. And you know what? I'll go Harry Gant as well. Harry Gant, he's still alive. I think he's in his 80s now. I don't know what his health looks like, but I think it would be awesome if he was able to hopefully see himself go into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. So I agree with the voters last year. They put Jimmy and Chad in, fair enough, but they had Gant and Rudd 3rd and 4th. I think they had Carl Edwards 5th in voting. That's about right in my opinion, but I hate to snub Jack Sprague, man. 3-time truck champion, and Harry Hyde. I feel like if 1 or 2 of these guys goes in, they all have to go in eventually, which, maybe that devalues the Hall of Fame somewhat, but it's just the truth. This year, the list, the nominees, it's so wide open. So I'll go with Rudd and Gant for now, but I reserve the right to edit my picks here in the next couple weeks. I want you guys to argue in favor of each character here. Let me know, why should Jeff Burton go in this year? Let me know, why should Jack Sprague, Biffle, why should these guys go in this year? Let me know. Maybe you'll change my opinion. I will say it's more fun this year. Last year it was, Jimmy Johnson, Chad Knaus, no doubters. This year it's a little more interesting. I'll give it that. Leave a comment down below. Again, are you in favor or against any one of those candidates? Leave a like on this video while you're down there. Subscribe for more great NASCAR content and conversation. And a huge thank you to my Patreon supporters. Thank you all for tuning in today. I will see you again later this week. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday.